Hello, hi. So, for today's video, I want to do another, um, what's that word? Or this is going to be really more of a phrase. And so, if you didn't look at the video about wokeness, and the first one about what in the whole what's this word series, give it a look. See, it just kind of sets the tone and explains the purpose of this series and kind of what I'm going to be talking about. So, the word or phrase for today is tone policing. What does that mean? It means that someone says something, you don't appreciate the way they said it, and so you show up to address the way that they said it. Oftentimes, and so this can happen in a variety of situations. It can happen when you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone and and they kind of get out of pocket with the way that they're talking to you. So they may be saying things that might not be the best, but they may not necessarily be being disrespectful with the words that they're using, but the tone of their voice when they use those words is making them sound disrespectful. And so, in those conversations, it sometimes turns into like, okay, I don't like your tone. What you're not gonna do is blah 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 and say that. And what you're not gonna do is talk to me crazy. That is the another way of saying I don't like your tone. But in the way that I want to discuss tone policing is not in that situation. That situation makes sense, is valid, and the way that someone says something can definitely color how the words are being received in general, in kind of one-to-one conversation and dialogue. Because usually those kinds of situations, the I don't like your tone is because of it's in a one-to-one conversation, typically in person that you're having with someone. Over the phone, it's tougher to kind of say you don't like someone's tone in an email because there is no tone, it's just words. But that's typically when that comes up. And the way that I would like to discuss it is when it shows up on social media, when it is definitely in a written form. Typically, you see it most common when someone is addressing what someone has said, and they've written it. It sometimes will show up when someone maybe records a video, but it's when someone says something and a person kind of chides them or kind of, tells them that what they're saying would be better received if they said it more nicely. And oftentimes in that instance, it's because someone is calling someone out for some form of oppression, some form of oppressive behavior, and the person is setting a boundary like, so this is not okay. This makes me feel whatever way. It makes them feel angry, sad, disappointed, whatever that means. This makes me feel this way. I'm not going to accept this, and this is a no from me. Someone shows up and is like, yeah, so people would listen to you and treat you better if you were just nicer about the way that you spoke to them. And tone police, and in that instance, it is not good. It's not good faith. It's basically kind of patting someone on the head and telling them to say something in a way that will make you feel more comfortable, so that then you can respect their words. When it's used in that format, it tends to be pretty. It contributes to the oppressive behavior that the person is calling out in the first place, and makes it reductive. It reduces the person's feelings down to them essentially kind of having a tantrum, or maybe even overreacting. And oftentimes it has the exact opposite effect as the person who's doing it may expect it to have. They may expect that the person will either take what they say and try to implement those changes. That's kind of for me what I always think that that's behind their intention. Like the person will say, "Oh, you know what? Thank you for giving me that advice," because it's sometimes often people tone police in the form of helpful advice on how to better say something, and in those instances, it feels like if the intention of the person who's doing that wants the person who has said the thing that they think isn't very nice sounding to take that advice and implement it. And oftentimes it has the opposite effect. Either it causes the person to shut down and not continue to speak up and speak out, because it's hard to push back on when someone is giving helpful advice, even if it feels like it's reducing your words and feelings. So you stop talking altogether. Or the person becomes incensed, which angry, more pissed off, and then begins to speak louder, more fervently, or specifically says, "So, this is not what we're not going to do here, is for you to tell me how to say this. I'm upset, I'm da-da-da, and I'm going to say whatever makes the most sense for me, how I'm feeling, and you're not going to try to manage that and actually skip over the word that I'm actually saying." And ultimately, tone policing is not the move. Telling someone that they should say something more nicely, especially if it's in a situation where they're demanding to be treated with respect and they're establishing a boundary of respect, and by simply saying, if they said the thing that they're saying more nicely or more calmly or more quietly or whatever, you're essentially telling them that I'm not going to treat you with respect, I'm not going to honor your boundary, because you didn't say it in a way that I liked. And that's not a good faith. That's not helpful advice given in good faith. And I keep doing finger quotes for a reason. Just pointing that out because, so you can tell the difference between constructive criticism and someone who is basically telling you that I'm not going to do what you are wanting me to do as it relates to respecting you because I don't like how it sounds. So tone policing is never good, and if someone ever calls you on it, it's sometimes a good idea to stop, think about what you said in context with what they said, see if you were actually listening to their message or if you were putting something else on top of whatever they were saying. So you're looking at them and like, how dare you think that you can ask me or demand me or expect me to do whatever. How dare you try to explain to me why what I'm doing, which I don't think is bad. There's, if stop and think if that is what may be coloring what you're saying. Because people usually call out tone policing because they feel that that's what's happening, and it's usually pretty obvious to people who are not in the conversation. So if you're ever called out on that, just stop and pause and think, and look for a way to either say what you said better or not say it at all. Because as people say, shutting up, being quiet, saying nothing is free. Sometimes it's better to sit back and listen and kind of watch the dialogue than to try to insert yourself into the dialogue. So that is tone policing. Don't do it. If someone tells you did it, respect that and think about how you might have done it, because communication isn't just about your words being understood. You are responsible for how the words are communicated, how they come out, how your intent does not erase impact. All of that is a part of communication. So that is tone policing, which is today's word or phrase. Again, like I've said before, we'll say this every time. Please, if there are some words that you would like to like me to talk through, talk about, describe, provide some real life examples of. Share them below in the comments. I would love to hear them because there, like I said in the woke video, there are a lot of new words that are being entered into the zeitgeist, into culture, in a way that they weren't before. Doesn't mean those words didn't exist. It just means that they might have existed in this very specific area, and now they're just becoming more widely available, and everyone doesn't always know what they mean. And so I like kind of digging into words and language and really understanding what is being said, why, and all of that good stuff. So I would love to do some research on that if there's some things you want to know about. Other than that, have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to the next time that we can talk again.